Verse 39. We give praise, glory, and honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach. And we're looking John 5 and 39. It says, search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. So what we're looking at, to have the love of Elohim, ministers, is just a way to sit back and look at how we deal with each other, and how we frame with each other, like Mashiach did. Let's look at 2 Corinthians chapter 1, picking it up in about verse 3. 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 3. Second Corinthians chapter 1, verse 3. It says, blessed be Elohim, even the Father of our Master, Yahushua HaMashiach, the Father of mercies and Elohim of all comfort. Listen to the next thing that he says. Who comfort us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort them which are in any trouble, by the comfort wherewith we ourselves are comforted of Elohim. For as the sufferings of Mashiach bound in us, so our consolation abound by Mashiach. And whether we be afflicted, it is for your consolation and salvation, which is the effectual in the enduring of the same sufferings which we also suffer. Or whether we be comforted, it is for your consolation and salvation. And our hope of you is steadfast, knowing that as you are partakers of the sufferings, so shall ye be also of the consolation. For we would not, brethren, have you ignorant of our trouble, which came to us in Asia, that we were pressed out of measure, above strength, insomuch that we despaired even of life. But we had the sentence of death in ourselves, that we should not trust in ourselves, but in Elohim which raised the dead, who deliver us from so great a death, and doth deliver, and whom we trust that he will yet deliver us. Now the key thing that we sit back and look at, and we're going to look at all these things, was Paul just spoke. But Paul just spoke something right here. He said that the same Elohim who comfort us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort them which are in any trouble. So when we turn around and we look at it, we look at the Most High, it gives us comfort in tribulation, that we should be able to turn around and be able to do that for one another, to reciprocate that same manner of love that he shows upon us. Let's look at something in 2 Samuel chapter 15. Second Samuel 15 and about verse 14. Second Samuel chapter 15 and verse 14. And it says, David said unto all his servants that were with him at Jerusalem, arise and let us flee, for we shall not also escape from Absalom. Make speed to depart, lest he overtake us suddenly and bring evil upon us, and smite the city with the edge of the sword. And the king's servants said unto the king, behold, thy servants are ready to do whatsoever my master the king shall appoint. Now obviously David's in a little trouble now. His son is seeking to kill him. The king went forth and all his household after him, and the king left 10 women which were concubines to keep the house. And the king went forth and all the people after him tarried in a place that was far off. And all his servants passed on beside him. And all the Chetherites and the Pelethites and the Gittites, 600 men, which came after him from Gad, passed on before the king. Then said the king to Ittai the Gittite, wherefore go thou also with us? Return to thy place and abide with the king, for thou art a stranger and also an exile. Where is thou come but yesterday? Should I this day make thee go up and down with us? Seeing I go whither I may, return thou. and take back thy brethren. Mercy and truth be with thee. And Ittai answered the king, as Yahuwah live, and as my master the king lives, surely in what place my master the king shall be, whether in death or life, even there also will thy servant be. So this Gittite sat back and looked at, if my king is in trouble and in tribulation and sufferance, that I'm going to be right there with him. I will not depart from him. Even when he's telling him, hey man, it's better for you to go ahead and leave me alone, he sat back and said, I will never leave you, because he would not forsake his friend in his trouble. Look down here at the bottom of this chapter though. Look at about verse 28. It says, see, I will tarry in the plain of the wilderness until there come word from you to certify me. Zadok therefore and Abiathar carried the ark of Elohim again to Jerusalem, and they tarried there. And David went up the ascent of Mount Olivet and wept as he went up, and had his head covered, and he went barefoot, and all the people that was with him. Hello? 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 They said all the people that was with him covered every man his head. They went up weeping as they went up. You know, a lot of people use this to say, see, David was, you could have your head covered while you're preaching and praying. But those people were not preaching and praying. They were weeping. But what we're looking at is that David is in tribulation and trouble. And Elohim is the one who seek to comfort David. But as you see, while they were in this trouble, go sit down, Leah. While David was in this trouble, all the people were with him, and they mourned and wept with him. They didn't leave him alone to his sorrows and in his trouble. See, I'm going to show y'all something in a moment when it pertains to that. And David, matter of fact, come over here to Job chapter 6. I'll do it right now. Just hold this 2 Samuel 15. Job chapter 6. Job 6 and about 1. This is Job now. He's talking to his friends. You know what I'm saying? What we just dealing with, man, is, you know, about a month or so ago when we was out there in the streets, before we went in the streets, you know, we were talking about the weightier matters of the law. The weightier matters of the law are the harder things that people don't like to look to because they're not as easy as other things. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're dealing with the weightier matters of the law, you're going to have to look. Lizzie, stop now. You're going to have to look at things within yourself and look at your own heart. And you're going to have to make an assessment on your heart. Is your heart in line with the mind of the living Elohim? Are you a person after his own heart? Because as we discussed last evening, the commandment is that we are to love each other as Mashiach loved us. He loved us and laying his life down for us, carrying our burdens and our sorrows and our troubles and all of these things, and he would never leave our side. We also looked at that if we don't do these things for our brethren, because remember, who is his mother, who is his sister, who is his brother? But them that do the will of Elohim. So if you see your brother afflicted, sorrowful, hungry, naked, what's the other one? Thirsty, in prison, sick, and you don't come to them, then you didn't come to Mashiach. Because what we had to turn around and look at it, if we say we in the body of Yahushua HaMashiach and we are his members, then we have to turn and look at other people in the body and see him and have the same mind frame that he had, which is to put yourself to the side and set your brother above yourself. That's what he was teaching us. You know what I'm saying? So when we look at Job 6 and 1, but Job answered and said, oh, that my grief were thoroughly weighed and my calamity laid in the balances together. For now it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Therefore my words are swallowed up. For the arrows of the Almighty are within me. He say, the poison whereof drink up my ruach, the terrors of Elohim do set themselves in array against me. When we sit back and we look at the arrows of Elohim are in me. He's sitting back looking at that the Most High has laid something in. Hold on one second. Let me see something. Job 6, 4. We look at arrows, look at chets, right? That's the Hebrew word for it, and it just literally means arrow. So, but it's figuratively as a shaft or a spear or a wound. So the wound of Elohim are within me. And that's you're gonna turn around and look at. We know Mashiach was wounded for our transgressions, so we see the sufferings as we come back and look in 2 Corinthians chapter 1 real fast, and then get 2 Corinthians chapter 4. When we look at that 2 Corinthians chapter 1 and we look at that verse 5, he say, "For as the sufferings of Mashiach abound in us, so our consolation also abound by Mashiach." So when we look at it as the wounds of Mashiach abound in us. Because he say the arrows of the Almighty are within me. So as I've been wounded by the Almighty, or I've been caused to suffer or to be conformed to the sufferings of Mashiach, this is to manifest and build something inside of you. Because if you can be able to relate to the sufferings of Mashiach, then you can be able to relate to the sufferings of others and carry their burdens as Mashiach carried your burdens and all of our burdens. You know what I'm saying? That's the things that we don't look at. We look at this man carried our burdens, but then we don't want to carry each other's to fulfill the Torah of Mashiach or the instruction of Mashiach to do this, because this is what he taught us. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 4, about verse 7. He said, "But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of Elohim and not of us. We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Cast down, but not destroyed." Now we got that word despair right. He said we're not in despair. And we already looked where you seen in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and about verse 8. It said that they despaired, that they even despaired of their life. And the word there is Ya'ash. And it's to despair. It is to be hopeless. No hope. You know what I'm saying? This is what I'm sitting there telling y'all. Was sitting back looking at. That's where I had done got to that point. When you get to that point where you feel you have no hope, that's when they begin to feel like, okay, now I would want to perish. You know what I'm saying? That's what happens. You know what I'm saying? That's why them sufferings and them burdens get to that point. Hold on. You know what I'm saying? And you get to that point where you feeling like you have no hope. And that's when you sit back and you look at your soul needs to be comforted by the Most High. And you can get to that point, you can get that low. But listen to what he say right now. He's sitting back and say they not in the spirit. We in verse 9. Persecuted but not forsaken, cast down but not destroyed. Always bearing about in the body the dying of the Master Yahushua, that the life also of Yahushua might be made manifest in our body. So Job is saying how the arrows of the Almighty are in him, or the wounds of the Almighty are in him. Now he's saying they're bearing about the body of the dying of the Master Yahushua. So he's sitting back looking at that. Those same wounds are in them, but those same wounds manifest that same manner of life that he had. Because we know he rose after these wounds. So we look at when we take on these sufferings and we take on these wounds, it's actually going to be the manifestation of everlasting life in Mashiach. Just like how Paul stated we had a sentence of death in ourselves, that we shouldn't trust in ourselves, but in Elohim that raised from the dead, to keep that hope that he would bring us up out of that death or those wounds of that sorrow, to be strengthened again by his Ruach. Come on back to Job chapter 6. Okay then.
Welcome. There is one other participant in this conference. Please announce yourself.
All right, you hear me, Lee? Because the call had dropped. So we look at verse 4 again. For the arrows of the Almighty are within me. So the wounds of the Almighty are within me. This goes back to that chastisement that we would have to receive. or that rod. And you don't necessarily receive the chastisement in the rod because you did anything wrong. You're doing it because he's trying to conform you and to make you a son. He said, the poison whereof drink up my ruach, the terrors of Elohim do set themselves in array against me. He said, does the wild ass bray when he have grass? Or lo, the ox over his fodder? Can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt? Or is there any taste in the white of an egg? Come over here to, I think, Mark chapter 9. He said, if that is unsavory, can it be eaten without salt? Let's see what the master say about that.
This line is now off hold.
I got you, man. It merged you in, bro.
Yo.
I hear you, man. Let's look at Mark chapter 9 real fast. He said, can anything unsavory be eaten without salt? And let's look at Mark 9. Let's look on here and just start it at about verse 43. Just start it right there. He said, if thy hand offend thee, cut it off, for it is better for thee to enter into life maimed than having two hands to go into hell, and to the fire that shall never be quenched, where the worm die not, and the fire is not quenched. And if thy foot offend thee, cut it off, for it is better for thee to enter halt into life, than having 2 feet to be cast into hell fire, into hell, into the fire that shall never be quenched, where the worm die not, and the fire is not quenched. And if thy eye offend thee, pluck it out, for it is better for thee to enter in the kingdom of Elohim with one eye, than to having 2 eyes to be cast into hellfire. Hello? Hello?
Here.
How you doing?
You.
All right. Say, into hellfire. Say, if thy eye offend thee, pluck it out. It is better for thee to enter into the kingdom of Elohim with one eye than to have 2 eyes to be cast into hellfire, where the worm die not, and the fire is not quenched. For every one shall be salted with fire, and every sacrifice shall be salted with salt. Salt is good. But if the salt has lost its saltness, wherewith will you season it? Have salt in yourselves and have peace one to another. Now, Job just asked a question. I'm going to reread this question in Job chapter 6, verse 6. He said, can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt? Well, we know in another place, the master say, if it ain't got no salt, it ain't fit for nothing. It cast into the dunghill. He that have ears to hear, let him hear. So you got to sit back and look at it. And we don't sit back and we don't, and that's Luke 14 and 34 I'm referencing. Say salt is good, but if it's lost its savor, wherewith shall it be seasoned? It's neither fit for the land, nor yet for the dunghill. But men cast it out. So when we come back and we look at Job chapter 6, can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt? Is there any taste in the white of an egg? We sit back and see something. Because all of us done had egg whites and you know ain't no taste in it. You know what I'm saying? Hello? So that means you got to keep your flavor. You got to keep your savor. We know the salt was put on the sacrifices. So when you sit back and look at something that's unsavory, that's something that's not good. He said, if you ain't got no savor in yourself or no flavor in yourself, you'll be cast out. That means you are worthless. Reprobate, so to speak. It was something I was looking at earlier. Come over here to Psalms 81. Hold the Job chapter 6 and look at Psalms 81. Since we talk about if the savor ain't got no salt in it, we'll end up coming back to Psalms 81 in a minute, most high will. But not at this time. I ain't going to hit all of it and try to jam it. I just work it a little different. Just work it a little different. Psalms 81, verse 10. Matter of fact, Psalms 81, verse 8. We'll come back to that. I got something else in that chapter, but I got to work it differently. I ain't going to move too soon. He said, hear my people, O my people, and I will testify unto thee, O Yasharal, if thou wilt hearken unto me. There shall no strange God be in thee, neither shalt thou worship any strange God. I am Yahuwah thy Elohim, which brought thee out of the land of Mizraim. Open thy mouth wide, and I will fill it. Y'all sit down. But my people would not hearken to my voice. Yasharal would none of me. See, that's our biggest problem. If we don't listen to what the man say. Like I say, when we look at the weightier matters of the law, you don't want to deal with the weightier matters of the law. Because the weightier matters of the law are going to take some work and it's going to take some effort. It's going to take some introspection. It's going to take some real live conversion. You're going to have to salt yourself to have savor. Or if not, you're going to be cast in the dunghill. Because how can anything how can anything be eaten if it's unsavory? That's what Job said. That's the question he's asking. I'm going to reread it so I don't quote the man wrong. That's the question he's asking. Can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt? So you sitting back looking at it. Can that which is ungodly be eaten without Elohim? Can the Most High take that? Will he take that? He said, you unsavory. He said, you need to have salt within yourselves. If you don't have the salt, you're worthless. He said, I'm going to get rid of you. I'm going to cast you out. Look at Psalm 81 again. Look at verse 12. He says, so I gave them up unto their own heart's lust, and they walked in their own counsels. Oh, that my people had hearkened unto me, and Yasharal had walked in my way. That's why it's get Romans 1 and 27. That's why you better make sure you got salt in yourself. Because this man say, since you didn't want to have no salt in yourself, and you didn't want to listen to me, I'm going to give you up to your own desires, and I'm going to let you go by your own recommended course of action. You're not going to go by my course of action. You're not going to go in the way that I say to go. Because he said, I lead thee in the way that profit thee. He said, I'm going to let you go in your own way. See what your end going to be. See, people don't realize how close you can teeter along that line where that man put you over that edge. Boy, he let you go ahead and turn your reprobate. 1 and 26. Romans. For this cause Elohim gave them up unto vile affections, for even the women did change their natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one towards another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet. Even as they did not like to retain Elohim in their knowledge, Elohim gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient. Because he sat back and told you in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, he said he made man upright. Man sought out many inventions. See, man sought out lust. Man sought out desires. Man sought out all these things because they didn't want to listen. You see the first example of that in the garden. He made Adam upright. They heart sought out many inventions. So when you don't want to listen and you don't want to follow what the man say in every aspect of it, not just the things you like or not just the things that are easy, this man will give you over to your own desires, and he'll let you follow your own course of action, your own advice. He'll let you take advice from sinners. He'll let you take advice from spiritually unaware people who don't listen to him either, for your own destruction. He said, listen what he said, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of Elohim, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful. He say, who knowing the judgment of Elohim, that they which commit such things are worthy of death. Not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. So then you just sit back and look at it, right? You find yourself having pleasure in people that do things against Elohim. Guess what that state where your mind headed at? All because you would not hearken unto his voice. He said, my sheep hear my voice and they follow me. So what the man is telling you to do, you gonna do. I told you before, when you get to the point you ain't hearing the master no more, you talking about you hearing the person who preaching, you borderline reprobate right there. You on your way. Come on back to Job chapter 6. You on your way.
Get out of there.
Job 6 and 6. So can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt? Is there any taste in the white of an egg? He said the salt don't lose its savor. So if we're going to be able to have savor, you sit back and look at it, right? Y'all sit down. Listen, verse 7. He said, the things that my soul refused to touch are as my sorrowful meat. Come on over to Matthew 26 when we talking about the things my soul refused to touch are as my sorrowful meat. I got to use the app for this one. Matthew 26. 25, 26, and 26. And as they were eating, Yahushua took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples and said, take, eat, this is my body. And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them. Now remember, this unleavened bread, so one way or another, every time we look at something, we're going to work that bread and that wine in there somewhere. And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth the fruit of this vine until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. Now we know further down in that chapter, what did the man turn around and say? I'm exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. He said the things that my soul refused to touch are as my sorrow for me. Now we're going to look at some of the things his soul refused to touch. Come on back over here to Matthew chapter 27. Matthew 27, what is that? Let me see what verse we want. I don't even think it's in that chapter. Matthew 27 and 34. He said the things he refused to touch is as his sorrowful meat. You sat back and told him, man, that man said, I desired to eat this with y'all for I suffered. So when we look at Matthew 27 and 34, he said they gave me vinegar to drink mingled with gall. And when he had tasted thereof, he would not drink. Because he said the things that my soul refused to touch were as my sorrowful drink. Because he sat back and looked at this was a bitter wine, sour wine. This goes back to what we were looking at the other day when he said he brought wine for those who were about to faint in the wilderness. They tried to bring wine for him because he was about to faint in the wilderness, but he refused it. Come on back over here to Job chapter 6. Look at verse 8. Listen to what he asked for. Listen to what Job say. He said, oh, that I might have my request, and that Elohim would grant me the thing that I long for. Even at that it would please Elohim to destroy me, that he would loose his hand and cut me off. That's what I would tell you. That's how I was feeling. He's like, if it pleased him to destroy me, just let your hand off me and cut me off. Let my soul taste death. Listen what he say. Then should I yet have comfort. I would harden myself in sorrow. Let him not spare, for I have not concealed the words of the Kadesh one. Now come over here and look in John chapter 18. This man turned around and sat back and said, I should have comfort. I would harden myself in sorrow. Let him not spare. I ain't hear none of this man words. You know, in John chapter 15, he sat back and said, I call you friends, because he said the servant don't know what his master do. If I call you friends, because everything that I do, I make it known to you. Y'all didn't even sit back and realize the whole time, whatever I was dealing with, word-wise and everything, no matter what sorrow it was, no matter how hard I was, I ain't concealed the words of the Kadesh one from you. Hold on, I got to use the app for that. The page gone. John 18, about 25. My apologies, 19. When you look at any of the men of Elohim when they were in his sorrow, Joseph was in sorrow. He didn't conceal the word of Elohim from them people. We're going to get to Joseph in a minute. Then the high priest then asked Yahushua of his disciples and of his doctrine. Yahushua answered him, I spake openly to the world. I ever taught in the synagogue and in the temple, whether the Yahudim always resort. And in secret I have said nothing. Why asked thou me? Ask them which heard me. What I have said unto them. Behold, they know what I said. Now this man done hardened himself in sorrows. Because he sit back and look at it, he finna die. He exceedingly sorrowful unto death. You come on back to Job chapter 6. But even in the midst of that, see, we just taking some of this information and just hitting it. I ain't got to the clear point of what we even came here to Job chapter 6 for. But the thing that he didn't do is he didn't conceal that word. He still manifested and pushed that word. And that's what something I mentioned to y'all, like, no matter how sorrowful you might feel, how depressed you might be, that don't change the fact that work got to be done. I'm going to sit back and be like, okay, I'm depressed, I'm sorrowful, so I'm not going to preach today. I ain't going to bring no word today. I'm going to conceal the word of the Kadesh one. How that's going to work? How that's going to happen? That ain't what Mashiach did. You know what I'm saying? We had to turn around and look at every aspect that we are to emulate this man. So hold on. Get 1 John chapter 2 and about verse 5. And emulating this man ain't just, oh, let's keep the laws. It's emulating every aspect of the Ruach of Elohim. When we turn around and we emulate every aspect of the Ruach Elohim, when we let the seed of the word enter into our lab or enter into our heart, then it will begin to transform us and conform us into Elohim. It will begin to give us the mind of Mashiach, literally. 1 John 2 and 5. Make it 2 and 4. Make it 2 and 3. Because we're going to sit back and look at his commandment. His commandment is that you love one another as he loved you. That's his commandment. Hereby we do know that we know him if we keep his commandments. He that saith, I know him and keep not his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. So how can the truth be in us? And we turn around and we look at This man told us to love each other as he loved us. This is the commandment that he gave. How are we going to sit back and say we know him and we're not keeping that commandment? But whoso keep his word, in him truly is the love of Elohim perfected. Hereby know we that we are in him. He that saith he abide in him ought himself also to walk even as he walked. So that means we ought to be just like Mashiach in every aspect and area. Come on back to Job chapter 6. I'm going to read verse 11 again. We're in verse 11. Listen to what the man say, because I can understand what Job said. I understand what he's saying. I can truly relate to what he's talking about. He say, what is my strength that I should hope? And what is my end that I should prolong my life? Is my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh of brass? So let's sit back and look at something. He said, what is my strength? That's what we have to sit back and look at. Even in the speck of Job is so despaired. He's asking, what is his strength? Well, we know Isaiah 26 say, trust ye in Yah, for trust in Yah is everlasting strength. The joy of Yah is your strength. But you sit back and look at when you sorrowful and depressed, the joy is going to flee. You know what I'm saying? So then you got to sit back and look at your joy got to be in the Most High. But he say, is my strength as the strength of stones? Well, we need to go look at Matthew chapter 7 and then 1 Peter chapter 2, and let's see how we can derive the pull that our strength is in the stones. Seven 24. We'll get to the point of what we're talking about, that as Elohim comfort, we ought to comfort each other and look at people who comforted each other. But we need to sit back and look at, put that down. Put it down. We'll sit back and we'll begin to look at something. That when we not actually loving and caring for each other like we supposed to, we transgressing the law. We read yesterday in the law, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So if you wouldn't want anybody to forsake you in sorrows, pain, affliction, hunger, nakedness, distress, persecutions, and all of these things, then don't do it to nobody else. The reason being is because Mashiach carried that for you to comfort you. So we have to turn around and look at, we got to carry that for each other to comfort each other. If we look at Elohim can give us comfort, why we can't look at that we can't give each other comfort? Why is it such a hard and difficult thing? And I'm not talking about just us. I'm talking about the whole house of Yasharal and the whole house of Yehuda. The whole family that came up out of Mizraim, who Yahuwah himself named by the name of Yasharal. Why is it so hard for us to love our brother and care for him and be there for him no matter what state that they're in? Why is that such a difficult proposition for these people to ascertain, to grab onto, and to execute? You know what I'm saying? Brothers love to scream love, 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 love. But nobody shows it. There's no way anybody in the house of Yasharal at any point in time should ever feel alone. Ever. You know what I'm saying? That means if an individual is feeling alone, they need to express that, and the whole body of members in that congregation need to sit down and look at each other one to another and sit back and ask themselves, what do we all need to change and fix that nobody amongst us ever feels alone? You know what I'm saying? I ain't talking about sitting back like this here, like as a collective, as a group, not sitting around looking stupid. I'm talking about individually at the house, scratching your head. Everybody sitting in the room, looking at each other like, what is it that we all need to do to fix the fact no one ever should feel alone when this man say, I will not leave you alone? How is that possible? How does that happen? How do we feel comfortable enough to say our soul gonna be saved when we're not even keeping the most simplest of commandment of loving each other as he told us to love each other as he loved us? How can we not keep? That's a simple commandment to keep, but yet it seems so difficult. You know what I'm saying? We run and boast about keeping Shabbats and keeping feasts and all that type of stuff. And then some people, the feast ain't even really that big a deal to them. The only big part of deal to them is the Sabbath days. That's a part of them. The other 6 days don't really mean nothing to them. Let me go on about my business. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's very few people that say, okay, we're going to go all 8 days. We're going to preach. We're going to light this here cup. Very few people who do that because it's not that highly important. You know what I'm saying? It's real easy to sit back and say, I ain't going to eat no pork. I ain't going to eat no shrimps. It's real easy to say, okay, I ain't going to wear no jewelry. It's real easy to say, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to smoke. But when it come down to saying, love somebody when they sorrowful and you not sorrowful. Be there for him in the pain. Take his burden and put it on your shoulder and carry it. Even though you not sad. Carry his sadness and be sad with it. Nobody want to do that. Verse 24 of the 7th chapter of Metayahu. Therefore, whosoever hear these sayings of mine and do them, I will liken him unto a wise man whose house is built upon a rock. And when the rain descended and the floods came and the winds blew, it beat upon that house and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. That's why he said, where's my hope? He says, is my strength in the rocks? He's asking the question. It's what he's talking to his friend. But when we turn around and look at Mashiach, come back around later and answer the question. Because I'm the chief cornerstone, who the builders rejected. This was Yah's doing and it was marvelous in his eyes. You know what I'm talking about? That's where your strength at is in the stones. You turn around and sit back and look at it. Your strength is in the word. He the word made flesh. You seen the law was written on 2 tables of stone. Your strength is in the stones. Oh, but they don't catch that door. Come on back over here to look at 1 Peter chapter 2. They don't sit back and tell you that. Matter of fact, 1 Corinthians 15 behind this 1 Peter chapter 2. Oh, yeah, they thought I was dead. They thought I wasn't going to come back. See, I'm going to tell you, they thought because my woman left, they just thought I was just going to be all out of there. They thought it was all just about that. The whole time this man was doing this for a reason. Just sit back and tell you when he say bearing, like we read in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, bearing about the wounds of Yahushua in our body. Just sit back and look at you. You have to take on that same suffering, pain, anguish, and affliction that he took on. You know what I'm saying? That man took on a sorrow, pain, and affliction to be able to relate to you. So when you were going through pain and affliction and your spirit was crushed, he could come to you to be able to comfort you. That's why the book say in Telahim 34 and 18, the Psalms 34 and 18, he is near to those of a broken heart or a crushed spirit. Because he was near to Allah, he was near to the son of Elohim when his spirit was crushed. He said he can't cry out to him with strong crying and tears. Hamashiach's spirit was crushed up on that state. The Father was near unto him. Why you think he wouldn't be near unto you when you got a crushed spirit? That's why he said your strength is in the stones. He said, is my strength in the stones? We don't even sit back and look at your strength is right there in the stones. 2 tables of stone. Say the word that was written by Elohim by his own finger. He ain't sit back and look at he created a Mashiach with his own hand. The word made flesh. The tables of stone made manifest. That's where your strength rest at. 1 Peter chapter 2 by verse 5. Make it verse 4. They don't hear me though. Okay. To whom coming as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of Elohim and precious. Ye also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house, a Kadesh priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to Elohim by Yahushua HaMashiach. Wherefore also it is contained in the scripture, behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious. He that believe on him shall not be confounded. He that believe ain't going to be broken. Now don't get me wrong. That don't mean you can't be saddened. That don't mean you can't get low. Please don't take that as what that means. Because I know that along with that 1 Corinthians 15 and about 52, you get your Romans 5 and 1. I know some people sit back and they look at how can somebody be of Elohim and be sorrowful and be broken and be distressed and be depressed. And then they forget to look at Mashiach, and they forget to look at Job, and they forget to look at Joseph, and they forget to look at Hezekiah, and they forget to look at Manasseh. They forget to look at these men and see that they suffered from these same things. We forget to look at them. To sit back, that none of us are exempt from possibly having to go through these things. The thing that don't nobody really tell anybody is, you've heard me say it numerous times that you're going to have to be conformed to this image of Mashiach and take on his sufferings. And then you don't really realize, like, yeah, you're literally going to have to take them on. You might have to take on that sorrow. You can't sit back and see how the man was manifested to bear your sorrows, and then don't think that you might not have to take on them same sorrows that he took on. That man say the arrows of Elohim are within me. We see the arrows in Hebrew in that check, that one of the meanings means, hold on one second, means wounds. So that means you're going to have in that, and you know what that goes back to? I sit back and look at it too, right? The process started a month before I got immersed in his death. You sitting back looking at, I got crucified with him. So because I got crucified with him, that means I had to take on his sorrows and sufferings with him. You got to take that on with him so you can become him completely. People don't sit back and look at that. And I know sometimes y'all might have heard me say it. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes Elohim just don't have you say it through the word and show it through the word. Sometimes he's going to have you see it. You know what I'm saying? That you could actually see it and it be tangible. You know what I'm saying? That's why you see Paul saying that we bearing about the death of Mashiach. So these people saw that in them. They were watching it. 1 Corinthians 15 and 53. See, but we get to the point of, we end up having that Christian mindset. That you feel like anybody in Mashiach should never suffer. Anybody in Mashiach should never be down. Anybody in Mashiach should never be sad. That's just not the case. That's just not the case. And I'm sitting here telling you, that doesn't mean that everybody is going to reach that same level of affliction. Because Paul said we were afflicted to the point we despaired. Well, we lost hope. That's what you seeing what Job is talking about. Job sitting here talking like he losing hope. He losing hope. That man say, is my strength in the rocks? Where's my strength that I might hope? Job is looking at all the stuff that's going on around him, and he's losing hope. Paul sat back and said, we had so much death and affliction around us, we despaired of our own life. We were losing hope in our own life. 1 Corinthians 15 and 53. Make it 52. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruptible, this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? The sting of death is sin, and the strength of sin is the law. So you sit back and realize what gives sin the strength to take you down is the law. But look what the man tell you though. But thanks be to Elohim, which give us the victory through our master, Yahushua HaMashiach. So as you sit back and look at your strength, going to still come right back to that stone, because that stone gave you the ability to overcome that sin. Let's see why in Romans 5 and 1. Because Job is sitting back talking about he ain't got no strength. He asking where his strength at. He asking, is it in the stones? That's what he asking, right? What is my strength that I should hope? And what is my end that I should prolong my life? He's sitting back looking at, what's my end that I would prolong my life? I didn't read that last verse in 1 Corinthians 15, but Paul made this clear statement right here in that last verse. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the master, for as much as you know your labor is not in vain in the master. Job sitting back looking at, what is even my hope? What is my end that I should prolong my life? What am I going to get at the end? This is when Peter say, Master, we forsaken all. Where shall we get? He say, anybody who done forsaken everything for my sake in the regeneration, they'll get eternal life. See, when you get as low as Job got, you turn around and look at, man, what reward am I going to get? See, I didn't even read the chapter where he's sitting back looking at, why did I even come out? Well, we read it a couple weeks ago. Why did I even come out my mother's womb? See, some people ain't never been brought down that low. When you get brought down that low, it ain't but two things going to happen. You either going to die in your misery or y'all going to lift you up. Hello?
Liam.
Hello?
Liam.
Hello?
Come on in there. Come here.
Hello?
Yeah, I hear you. So let's look at Job 6. 11 one more time. He said, what is my strength that I should hope? And what is my end that I should prolong my life? Is my strength, my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh brass? Now let's look back at Romans 5 and 1. Because you know brass is something that's of a defense. It's hard. Stop. Romans 5 and 1. Therefore, being justified by faith, we have shalom with Elohim through our master Yahushua HaMashiach, by whom also we have access by faith into this favor wherein we stand and rejoice in the hope of the esteem of Elohim. And not only so, but we esteem in tribulation, also knowing that tribulation work patience. See, that's what you sit back and you look at, right? That's what Job was going through with some tribulation, but his patience was running up. That's the same thing you sit back and look at. You could go through some tribulation. Sometimes your patience be running up, but Yah will extend you. You know what I'm saying? He's saying that tribulation, and he say in patience, experience, and experience hope, and hope make not ashamed, because the love of Elohim is shed abroad in our hearts by the Ruach HaKodesh, which is given unto us. For when we were yet without strength, in due time Mashiach died for the ungodly. Come on back to Job chapter 6. That's why he sat back and looked at it. He said, what is my strength that I should hope? Because he was without strength. That's why Mashiach had to come down for him to give him that hope. Oh, man. Ain't that what he just sit here and ask y'all? What is my strength that I should hope? And what is my end that I should prolong my life? Is my strength the strength of stones, and my flesh is brass? That's why he sat back and looked at it. He was going through all that tribulation to be able to learn some patience. Through that patience, he ended up getting experience. From that experience, he got hope. And the Most High ended up shedding the Ruach HaKodesh on him at the end, because this man made intercession for his friends and he was restored. Y'all lifted him up. Why? Because he was yet without strength till the son of Elohim, till Mashiach came to die for the ungodly. Not saying that Job was ungodly, but showing you the similitude that he was without strength. He's asking, where's my strength at? Is it in the stones? That's why we went and read Matthew 7 and 1 Peter chapter 2. That's why we read 1 Corinthians 15. Where's your strength at? Your strength is in the stones. It's in the word of Elohim. The word was made flesh. Y'all stop. Look at verse 13. Is not my help in me, and is wisdom driven quite from me? To him that is afflicted, pity should be showed from his friend, but he forsake the fear of the Almighty. You know that's what ends up happening. That man say, if a man be afflicted, pity should be showed from his friend. Now I'm going to show y'all something, right? Look in the 18th chapter of Job. He said, if a man be afflicted, pity should be shown to him from his friend. Because a neighbor, he said, you should love your neighbor as you love yourself. So if you don't show no pity to your friend while he's afflicted, guess what ends up happening? You sinning. That goes right back to say that the Elohim of all comfort, who comfort us in tribulation, that we might be able to comfort them that are in trouble. Now he's talking about his three friends who are not comforting him at all. All they trying to figure out is you had to do something wrong for y'all to do this to you. That's the first thing everybody scream. If you're going through something, you had to do something wrong. You know what I'm saying? That's why them three men got in trouble, because he said, you haven't spoken the right thing like my servant Job did. Why did he have to do something wrong? That's the same thing they looked at Mashiach. So they looking at this nigga depressed, he despaired. So obviously Elohim can't be with him, because if Elohim was with him, he wouldn't be distressed. He wouldn't be despaired. He wouldn't be down. He wouldn't be sad. He wouldn't be feeling like that. He wouldn't lost everything. That's to sit back looking at you got a corrupt and perverse mind thinking gain is godliness, because you don't sit back and you ain't got proper judgment to even know the testimony of HaMashiach, to even know where that come from. He say, should not Mashiach have suffered to enter into his esteem? The Father gonna get the esteem when a man go through suffering. He come up out of it. The man can't do nothing but esteem in Elohim. That's all he gonna be able to do. All the esteem, all the glory got to go to Yah. We don't look at it that way, because nobody wants to become weak that they might be strong. Nobody wants to suffer that Elohim might get the esteem. You want smooth sailing. You don't want to see, we ain't talking about this little thing, oh, it's hard, I can't pay my bills, or this, that. I'm talking about real live despair. This man is in real live despair to the point he's losing faith. Because if he say, where's my strength that I might hope? And what's my end that I might prolong my life? Is my strength in the stone? This man asking the question, why am I even here? I despair of my life. I don't even want to be here. Job 18 though. 19 actually. My apologies. 19 and 13. He said a man friend ought to afflict him, have pity on him when he afflicted. Let's see what Job friends did. And we'll turn around and look at it and see what Mashiach friends did. We're going to have to ascertain who his friends are first, though. He said, he has put my brethren far from me, and my acquaintance are truly estranged from me. He said, my kinfolk have failed, and my familiar friends have forgotten me. They that dwell in my house and my maidens count me for a stranger. I'm an alien in their sight. I called my servant, he gave me no answer. I entreated him with my mouth. My breath is strange to my wife, though I entreated for the children's sake of my own body. Well, we know already in first Colossians chapter 1 how he talk about this man bared his sins in the body. He say his children's sake. His children's sake, he bared them in his own body. Nobody will hear me. They've all left from me. Nobody's got any pity for me in my affliction. Let's look at John chapter 15 and let's sit back and see who his friends is. Let's see if they had any pity on him or did they leave him. You get your Matthew 26. Let's see what happens. Then you can get your Galatians 6 and 1. You sit back and see your friend afflicted, you ought to have pity on him. Y'all have pity on you, but we don't have pity on each other. We don't have pity on each other. Ain't that something? That man sat back and said, man, where is the pity at? Where is the pity at? And I'm going to hit you with something else when it comes to that. John chapter 15, verse 13. John 15 and 13. We have to learn where's the bowels of compassion at? You know what I'm saying? Why we don't even sit back and have that? And you could get Job 19 and 20 and make it 19 and about 17 because, well, no, about 19 and 20. We'll come back to Job 19, about 19 and 20. 1 John chapter 4, about verse 14. And that's behind this John 15 and 13 and this Matthew chapter 26 and about verse 50. So we got John 15 and 13 where we at now. Matthew 26 and 50. Job 19 and 20. 1 John 4 and 14. Greater love have no man than this, that a man lay his life down for his friends. You are my friends if you do whatsoever I command you. Henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant know not what his master do, but have called you friends. For all things that I've heard of my Father, I have made known unto you. So we see who his friends is. His friends are the apostles. Let's see what they did in Matthew 26 and 50. Let's see when their friend was afflicted, did they have pity on him? 26 and 50. Let's see if they stood around there and they were strange to him. You know the people didn't have no pity on him. Make it 26 and about 53. Make it 52. We know the people ain't had no pity on him. They called him a blasphemer, called him a liar, slapped him around. Nobody had pity on the man. The only person that had pity on the man was Pilate and his wife. I find this man to be innocent. I wash my hands of this. Leave this just man alone. I suffered many things in a dream of. Nobody had pity on him. And I'm going to sit back and show you. Even as Mashiach suffered, there was still somebody there with him to carry his burden. You know, I can remember telling somebody this here when I was explaining to them why I was expressing to them what I was expressing. Because I done told y'all this so many times. That sometimes I'll use what I'm going through as a means to show you something out of the word. You know what I'm saying? So this man took the situation even further and deeper than I could have ever imagined. You know what I'm saying? To able to show y'all something and teach y'all something. You know what I'm saying? Y'all don't even like, a lot of times I use myself as an example. And I know a certain person at one particular time didn't like that I use both of us as an example. But you sit back and you can use that to actually, you can get a living, walking, breathing, something that you can see and actually put it with what's written. And then you can be able to see it and manifest it and walk with it. Then said Yahushua unto him, put up again thy sword into his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Think thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of Malachim? But how then shall the scriptures be fulfilled that thus it must be? In the same hour said Yahushua to the multitudes, are you come out as against a thief with swords and staves to take me? I sat daily with you teaching in the temple, and you laid no hold on me. But all this was done that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples forsook him and fled. They see this man about to be afflicted. They ain't had no pity on him. They ain't had no compassion on him. We out of here. I don't want nothing to do with this. Because they sitting back looking at that. Boy, I don't want that to fall on me, man. Come on back over here to Job 19 and 20. It's a whole bunch of other stuff, man. It's 7:21. I might be able to get it. You know, tomorrow will be regular time, 8 o'clock p.m., regular Shabbat time, regular, same Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock, regular time. Then Sunday, it'll be 8 o'clock p.m. Sunday will be 8 o'clock p.m. You know, I'll reiterate that again. Sunday at 8 o'clock p.m. Well, I should say Saturday night. You go right back again, 8 o'clock p.m. You know, it'll be another Shabbat ending Sunday night. You know what I'm saying? Let me sit back and make sure. Yeah, ending Sunday night. So might go that afternoon, might not. Probably will though. Job 19 and 20. Make it 19. He said, all my inward friends abhorred me, and they whom I loved are turned against me. That's where you sit back and you look at it, right? Like Paul say, the more that I'm loved, the less that I'm loved. You sit back and you look at you going through all these afflictions and these sorrows, and you begin to sit back and you express that to somebody close to you whom you love, and they end up abhorring you, and they end up turned against you, meaning I want nothing to do with you. Listen what next thing he say. My bone cleaved to my skin and to my flesh, and I'm escaped with the skin of my teeth. Have pity upon me, O my friends, for the hand of Elohim have touched me. You sit back and look at it. The hand of Elohim touch a man. Don't nobody got no pity on him. When the book say, if a man be afflicted, his friends should have pity on him. Job is screaming out for his friends to have pity on him, and nobody did it. How can we sit back? Hold on. Let me get the Hebrew word for that. How can we sit back and you see somebody who you say is your friend, and you see that they sorrowful, and you see that they crushed, and you don't have no pity on them? See, go get the 1 John 4 and 14 while I pull up this word in Hebrew in this Job. This is to let us know that we ought to be ashamed one for another. Not just y'all, everybody, myself included. We all ought to be ashamed that we don't turn around and have pity on each other like we supposed to. Don't nobody get a pass from it. Now, when they say pity, the word is, hold on, let me say it right. Hold on. It's Hanan, and it means to be gracious, to show favor, pity, make favorable, have mercy on, to be shown favor, to show consideration. So to show pity is to have mercy. Now, the video that we did about that, one of the things didn't upload right, so I wasn't never able to upload the completion of it. But I'm going to sit back and show you, when you don't show pity on your friend when he's afflicted, you're going to hell. 1 John 4 and 14. Because we're going to sit back and look at you not keeping the law. Get Exodus 34 and 5 to go along with this 1 John 4 and 14. And then come back to James chapter 2. See, I'm trying to make us to get it to the point, man, where we be perfect. Walking in perfect love. Not halfway love, perfect love. John 4 and 14. And we have seen and do testify that the Father sent the Son to be the Savior of the world. Whosoever shall confess that Yahushua is the son of Elohim, Elohim dwell in him, and he in Elohim. And we have known and believed that the love that Elohim hath to us, Elohim is love, and he that dwell in love, dwell in Elohim, and Elohim in him. Elohim is love now. So when we go back and look at this in the law now, don't say you ain't been warned. Herein is our love made perfect, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world. As Mashiach is, so are we in this world. Mashiach had pity enough on you for the wounds of Elohim to be in him. That's the mercy he showed. He said if you would have known what this was, you would have had mercy and not sacrifice, and you wouldn't have condemned the guiltless. This man laid his life down because he had mercy on you. How are we going to turn around and not have mercy on each other? Because the pity, the Hanan, is to have mercy. So when you see your brother afflicted, you're supposed to have mercy on him. Why we don't sit back and be like that we don't have mercy on each other? How is that not happening? How is that possible? How do these people sit back and look at us and don't see our Elohim? Think about that. How is it possible that if our Elohim is full of mercy and we supposed to be his people, and yet people don't see mercy in us? We don't, matter of fact, let's not even say people outside the house. I'm talking about people in the house. How is that possible? We can't have mercy on each other because the only person that we thinking about is ourselves. That's the only person we thinking about. We're not thinking about having mercy on the next person. You know, and we went through that when we dealt with mercy rejoice against judgment, which we about to read again. And you know how many times we could go through this book and Yahushua looking on somebody who was afflicted and he had pity on them. And when you don't turn around and do it, you breaking the law. I'm gonna show you now. I'm just letting this here, man. This is what he put on my heart, man. I'm just a messenger. Verse 18, for there's no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear hath torment. He that fears not made perfect in love. We love him because he first loved us. If a man say I love Elohim and hate his brother, he is a liar. For he that love not his brother whom he have seen, how can he love Elohim whom he have not seen? How you gonna sit back and say you love Yah, but you don't love your brother who you seen? And you can't say you love your brother and he's afflicted and you don't have no pity, no mercy on them? How's that possible? That man say, a new commandment I give you, that you love one another as I have loved you. Let's look at Exodus 34 now. Now, if I go in the Brit Kadesh, if I go in the Gospels, right? If I go in there and we find 2 to 3 witnesses of Mashiach showing mercy on somebody, that means we all going to hell. We don't show no mercy on somebody who afflicted. Would y'all agree? (34 and 4). And the key point of what I said now. I ain't say y'all, I said all, myself included. If we don't show mercy on somebody who afflicted, we don't have no pity on them, we don't sit back there and be there for them to comfort them, that means we all ought to go to hell, right? That means we all ought to go. Nobody would be exempt from that. We all got to go. It's just that simple. It's just that plain. We all ought to go. And if we look at it, it is that serious and it's that real, that means we're going to have to start making some changes on how we sit back and we look and we treat each other and we do each other and love each other and all that. Bottom line. Bottom line. No way around it. Ain't no sense of sugarcoating or half-stepping with it. That means we're going to lose our soul because we are thoughtless, selfish, careless, inconsiderate people. Because I done told you just yesterday, that's not the Abrim way. That's not the Yahudim way. That is not the way of Yahuwah to have mercy and compassion on your brother while he's suffering. And I ain't even going in the direction that I thought I was going to go. He took me a whole nother direction. So y'all willing, that mean the part of comforting each other in tribulation probably going to come on Shabbat. Because he taking me in a whole nother direction. Because like Buddy said in that video when he was battling to do, you're going to get this work. This man is doing this for one reason alone, that our soul might be saved, that we start loving and treating each other like we supposed to. And if we see our brother suffering, we see our sister suffering, we see they afflicted, that we come have mercy and compassion on them, that we have pity on them. Because then we'll be manifesting the love of Elohim. It said, Elohim so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, that the world might not perish, but have life through him. That is mercy. That's compassion. You were afflicted in sins and transgressions. He looked upon you with pity and compassion and bared your sins and burdens in his own body. Because he had mercy and compassion on you because you were afflicted with death. And what do we turn around and do? We don't want to do that. See, I'm going to give you an example of carrying each other burdens, fulfilling the Torah of Mashiach in a spot you wouldn't expect it, or maybe you should expect it. I'm going to hit it a little bit, but y'all with it, I'm going to hit it even harder on the Shabbat. 34 and photo. Yahuwah descended in the cloud and stood with him there, proclaimed the name of Yahuwah. And Yahuwah passed by before him and proclaimed Yahuwah Elohim, merciful and favor or gracious, long suffering and abundant in goodness and truth. Listen to what he say. Keeping mercy for thousands and forgiving the iniquity and transgression and sin, that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children's children unto the third and fourth generation. If we put the name of Yasharal, power to rule as all, on our name, that means you ought to have mercy in your heart. You ought to have that. You ought to have it. That's one of the, now you sit back and look at it. Mercy is not mentioned as one of the fruits of the Ruach, right? But that's an attribute of having the name of Yahuwah on you, so it's sit down. That's an attribute of his spirit. That's an attribute of his essence, is to have mercy. You know what I'm saying? We don't sit back and we don't look at having mercy upon people. Let's look at James chapter 2. Matter of fact, before I even look at James chapter 2, swing on over here to Matthew, right? Let's see what we can find. Let's see what we can find when it comes down to talking about having mercy. Let's see what we can find. And if we find something, that means we all doomed. Matthew 5 and 7. That means we all doomed. That means if we see our brethren afflicted and we don't have no mercy on them, that means we all doomed. You know what I'm saying? We hope that y'all, we don't be doomed for something that we can easily prevent. We could easily prevent that. Matthew 5 and 7 says this, blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. So if we can sit back and be able to have mercy on those that are afflicted, then y'all can be able to have mercy on us. We know the example of this because we just went through this not too long ago. David had mercy on Saul. David had mercy on Saul. He spared him. He could have killed him, but he didn't do it. Look at all the examples that we done looked at in the past of somebody showing mercy. Huh? You sit back, you look at Elisha. When he sat back and seen that woman's son had died, he went and had mercy on her to resurrect her son. Elijah did the same thing. Even Elisha had mercy on Naaman the Syrian to heal him of his leprosy. The list go on and on. What about Moses? We're having pity and compassion when the people were afflicted because they worshiped the golden calf. And he said, don't kill them, kill me. He said, I'm going to put a man to death. He said, I won't. He said, I block. He said, blot me out your book. He said, he that sin against me, I'm going to blot out my book. When he told Moses, man, get out the way, I'm going to kill them all and make a greater and mightier nation out of thee. He said, don't do it. He looked on the people and had mercy and compassion and pity on them. When y'all sat back and seen you afflicted in Egypt by your taskmasters and your burdens and all of these things, he looked upon you with pity, with mercy, with compassion. You were afflicted. This man he said he seen his friend afflicted. He had pity on him. Now we turn around, we don't represent the same behavior. Hello? Hello? What's wrong with us? Why we don't have that same behavior to sit back and look at somebody's afflicted, I'm going to have pity on them. When David was afflicted, y'all had pity on him and delivered him out of all his troubles. But yet we won't do that for each other. How can we say we love our brother who we see? How can we say we love Yah whom we don't see, but don't love our brother who we do see? That means all that's telling us is that we would have been the same people saying crucifying, the same people saying I don't know him, acting indifferent because you would have seen him afflicted and you would have had no mercy and compassion on him whatsoever. We can't sit back and be showing manifesting the works that we the children of the people who killed him because that was their behavior. And if we treat each other like that, we showing we are their children. I want not that for us. My brethren, I want not that for us. How can we sit back and look at that? Let's really start looking at stuff in the reality of the situation of what our behavior is manifested. We hate Mashiach because we don't love each other. We say we in the body of Mashiach, but we don't love each other. So therefore we hate Mashiach, which means we hate the Father, which means ain't no life in us because we hate our brother. How is there life in us and we hate our brother? Because if we don't love our brother, the opposite of love is hate. Well, you say, I do love my brother, but when he's afflicted, you don't come to him. When he's hungry, you don't feed him. When he's thirsty, you don't give him drink. When he's sick, you don't visit him. When you're in prison, you don't visit him. When he's naked, you don't clothe him. You don't do none of that. Just like he said in Isaiah 57, he talk about a word spoken in due season. How many of y'all done came to somebody and spoke a word in due season that lift their spirits up and gave them encouragement to keep on going? Because you don't say nothing. You just say to this here, just stay encouraged. Y'all got you. Just platitudes, simple stuff. That stuff ain't helping nobody because it ain't with no care. It ain't with no love. You just saying what you think you ought to say. Instead of saying it because it comes from deep down in your soul, in your ruach, to strengthen your brother or your sister because you see they down and out. So that means you wouldn't do it to Mashiach. That's the reality of it. Let's not play no games with it. Let's not cut no corners with it. Let's not sit back and say it to make ourselves feel better. Let's just go ahead and deal with the reality. We're not showing mercy and compassion and pity. Therefore, we are not Baruch because we are not merciful. Therefore, we won't get no mercy. Therefore, we going to hell. You know what I'm saying? Because we sinning. We are transgressing the law. We are transgressing the law. Period. That's how we got to start looking at it. See, you thought transgressing the law was just some do's and don'ts, huh? Don't do this and don't do that. No, it's more to it than that. It's more to it than that. It is more to it than that. Let's look over here and let's see what we want. Mark chapter 10, verse 47. Mark chapter 10, verse 47. We got to be complete, which means we got to grow up completely in Mashiach. Not with the rallies, not with the nonsense, completion. 10 and 47. Mark. Let's look at an example. So if we see examples of Mashiach seeing somebody who was afflicted and he had pity on him, and he say we his friends, and we ain't looking at our friends, and we ain't having no pity on them, we going to hell. 46. And they came to Jericho, and as he went out of Jericho with the disciples, a great number of people. Blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the highway side begging. And when he heard that it was Yahushua of Nazareth, he began to cry out and said, Yahushua, son of Daud, have mercy on me. Many charged him that he should hold his shalom. But he cried the more a great deal, thou son of Daud, have mercy on me. Yahushua stood still and commanded him to be called. And they called the blind man, saying unto him, be of good comfort, rise, he called thee. And he, casting away his garment, rose and came to Yahushua. And Yahushua answered and said unto him, what will that I should do unto thee? The blind man said unto him, Master, that I receive my sight. Yahushua said unto him, go thy way, thy faith hath made thee whole. Immediately he received his sight and followed Yahushua in the way. You know, that's what we were looking at last night. Man talking about how he opened the eyes. He said now he sat back and looked at when he came to him because he had mercy on him. He followed him in the way. This man walked in the highway of Kadesh. It's right there in Isaiah 35 how he opened the eyes of the blind, and there's a highway there, even the way of Kadesh, and the unclean shall not walk therein. You don't even sit back and look at the Yahushua saw you and had pity on you because you were afflicted in your sin, and open your eyes so you can see him, so you can follow him to the way of salvation. But you see your brother afflicted and won't have no compassion on it. How is that possible? Oh man, why don't nobody want to tell us this? Why don't nobody want to bring this up? You know what I'm saying? That's a heavy thing. That's a heavy thing. That ain't just something that you could just carry to the side and just sit back and be like, you know what? That's not a big deal. Let's look at Luke chapter 16. My apologies, not Luke chapter 16, Luke chapter 10. Luke chapter 10. Luke chapter 10 and about verse 30. Let's look at a parable of Mashiach. Let's see another thing the man say. This will be a second witness. But you know we're going to have three. Luke chapter 10 verse 30. I mean 10 and 30. Make it 10 and 29. Matter of fact, 25. I'm going to just run it all the way down. And behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tempted him, saying, Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? He said unto him, What is written in the Torah? How read thou? He answered and said, Thou shalt love Yahuwah thy Elohim with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself. And he said unto him, Thou hast answered right, this do, and thou shalt live. But he, willing to justify himself, said unto Yahushua, And who is my neighbor? Yahushua answered, A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment, and wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain priest that way. When he saw him, he passed on by the other side. And likewise a Levite, when he was at that place, came and looked on him, and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. He seen a man afflicted and had pity on him. And he went to him and bound up his wounds. That means he came up and he covered his wounds. See, you already know from Isaiah 53 and what Peter told you in 1 Peter chapter 2, probably about verse 22 or 23 or 24. He said, By his stripes ye are healed. He came to bound up your wounds because you were wounded with sin. You were marked for death. This man looked upon you and had pity and bore your wounds in his own body and carried your transgressions and griefs and bared every last bit of that you might be healed. But we can't heal each other. He said, pouring oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. And on the morrow when he departed, he took out 2 pence, and gave them to the host, and said unto him, Take care of him. And whatsoever thou spend more when I come again, I will repay thee. Now which now of these 3 think thou was a neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? He said, He that showed mercy on him. Then said Yahushua unto him, Go and do thou likewise. So that means the master just gave you a commandment that if you see a man afflicted and broken down, if you're going to love your neighbors, you love yourself, go have mercy on him. Have compassion on him in his sorrows and in his troubles. Don't leave him to his own devices. We got to stop with that excuse of, I don't know what to say. Just pick up the phone and call him. Get in your car and go see him. Stop making an excuse not to do nothing. Because at the end of the day, that's all it is, an excuse to be inactive. An excuse to be uncaring, an excuse to be unmerciful, an excuse to be unloving. That's all it is. At the end of the day, it's an excuse because in actuality and in truth, you don't want to do it. At the end of the day, you just don't want to do it. Instead, and that's the thing that we don't want to sit back and say, I don't want to do it. Come over here to Zechariah chapter 7 about verse 4. I got one more example from Mashiach. And that's Matthew 15 and 20. Ain't no sense of fronting with it. Ain't no sense of playing with it. Let's just be honest with it. We gonna be real. Let's just gonna be real. Zechariah 7 and 4. Then came the word of Yahuwah of hosts unto me, saying, Speak unto the people, all the people of the land, and to the priests, saying, When you fasted and mourned in the 5th and 7th month, even those 70 years, did you at all fast unto me, even to me? And when you did eat, and when you did drink, did not you eat for yourselves and drink for yourselves? Should not you hear the words which Yahuwah have cried by the former prophets when Jerusalem was inhabited and in prosperity, and the cities thereof around about her when men inhabited in the south and the plain? And the word of Yahuwah came unto Zechariah, saying, Thus speak of Yahuwah of hosts, execute true judgment, and show mercy and compassion every man to his brother. The man just gave you the instruction. Show mercy and compassion every man to his brother. You sit back and you see Hamashiach, even with the parable of what they call the parable of the Good Samaritan. You just sat back and seen him showing to execute true judgment and show mercy and compassion. You just seen him teach you that. You seen him do that with the blind man. You seen him do that with people who were dead. You seen him do that with the lame man. You seen him do that with the man with the withered hand. You even see him do that with the woman who was caught in adultery. You seen him do that with Zacchaeus in Luke 19. The list goes on and on and on. He says, show mercy and compassion every man for his brother. That is a commandment. That's an instruction. That means when you see your brother carrying a burden and you don't carry it, you sinning because you disobeyed. because he told you show mercy and compassion, and you said, I'm not going to do it because that's not my problem. That's making me sad. That's bringing me down. So guess what? When Mashiach look at you, your afflictions, your burdens, it make me sad. I'm going to turn my back on you. The same way he said, if you can't forgive a man while you praying, I won't forgive you. If you can't have mercy on a man, I will not have mercy on you. That's how it works. But this ain't no game. We got to look at the whole totality of it. Your whole heart and mind got to change. We always screaming we love y'all, but we don't love the people who you can physically see. You have never seen y'all's face at any time. You have never seen Yahushua's face at any time. You have never behold their similitude. But you behold your brother and sister similitude daily. Show no mercy, no compassion. All people worried about is, man, I think something wrong with him. I think something wrong with her. They need to get over it. They need to do this. They need to do that. How about you go love them? How about you have pity on them? How about you have compassion? That can go a long way for helping somebody get out of sorrows. It can go a long, long way. But indifference ain't going to do nothing but embolden them to stay sorrowful and feel just like how Job feel. What am I even alive for? Verse 10. He say, and oppress not the widow, nor the fatherless, the stranger, nor the poor. Let none of you imagine evil against his brother in your heart. But listen to what he said. But they refused to hearken. That means you didn't want to listen. And they pulled away the shoulder and stopped the ears that they should not hear. Yea, they made their hearts as an adamant stone, lest they should hear the Torah and the words which Yahuwah of hosts have sent in his Ruach by the former prophets. Therefore, great wrath come from Yahuwah of hosts. That man say you sat back and said, unless you would hear the Torah. So when he told you to have mercy and compassion, that's going right back to loving your neighbors. You love yourself because that's the law. That's going right back to Exodus 34. When he proclaimed his name, that he merciful, you don't want to hear it. He say great wrath coming on you. Hellfire. Now what we gonna do with that? That means we all going to hell because we can't think about nobody else but ourselves. We can't look at nobody else's pain and sorrow but our own. How can we sit back and look at our brother and say our brother's pain is weighing me down? Never sitting back looking at, did you weigh Mashiach down? How big of a hypocrite are we? Psalms 81 and 4, 81 and 5. I'm finna get ready to wrap this up, man. It's about 10 minutes to 8. Psalm 81 and 5. Psalms 81 and 5. All right. For this was a statute for Yasharal and the Torah of Elohim of Yaakov. This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony. When he went through the land of Mizraim, when I heard a language that I understood not. You remember, Yosef mean Elohim have taken away my reproach. And this was a testimony when he went through the land of Mizraim, when he went through the land of bondage. You didn't sit back and realize that when Joseph was in that prison, and he broke down that vision, most high willing, I'll go into this in greater detail at another time, if it be Yah's will. That when he lifted him up to sit back and be able to parse out the corn amongst the people, when he did that, that man bared the burdens of the people, fulfilling the Torah of Mashiach. Bear ye one another's burdens. He bared the burden of everybody. Everybody in the whole world had to come to Joseph to get corn. He bared the burdens of all men, fulfilling the Torah of Mashiach. Elohim have taken away my reproach, bared the burdens of all. How we gonna get around that? He even bared the burdens of the trespass of his brothers. How we gonna get around that? This man say, what you thought to do to me for evil, turn it out being for good, saving many souls alive. How we gonna get around that? How we gonna get round that? How we gonna get round that? Listen what he said, right? I removed his shoulder from the burden. His hands was delivered from the pots. He said, I removed his shoulder from the burden. Let's come back and let's just go look at Genesis chapter 4. That said, hey, look how he removed a man's shoulder from the burden. All right, just gonna have to hit a little bit up. I mean, what else we got to do? Genesis chapter 40. Genesis chapter 40, about verse 18. And it came to pass, and Joseph answered and said, this is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree, and the birds shall eat thy flesh from off thee. And it came to pass the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, he made a feast unto all his servants, and lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup unto Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted unto them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot it. So now you sit back looking at it, right? He said, I set this in the testimony of Joseph. And I'm going to remove the burden from off his shoulder. And it came to verse 1, it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. This is again to talk about that patience, tribulation work patience. And patience bring forth experience, and experience hope, and hope make not ashamed. Joseph sat in prison 2 extra years amongst the time he was already there. Still maintained his hope and his endurance because his strength was in the stones. Hold on now. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fattle shed, and they fed in the meadow. Now we're going to read all this here, right? So then we drop down to verse 9. Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants and put me in the ward in the captain's guard house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, and I and he, we dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was with us a young man of Abrim, a servant to the captain of the guard. We told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams, to each man according to his dream, and he did interpret. And it came to pass as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored into my office, and after him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph and said, they brought him out hastily out of the dungeon. He shaved himself and changed his raiment and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou can understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not to me. Elohim shall give Pharaoh an answer of shalom. Pharaoh said unto Joseph, in my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of a river. Now we already know the whole story. We're not going to read all this here. He ends up interpreting the dream. Pharaoh gets the answer. Pharaoh ends up making him king. We're putting him at his right hand. And let's look at verse 56. And let's see what happens. Make it 53. And the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Mizraim were ended. And the 7 years of dearth began to come, according as Joseph said. And the dearth was in all lands. But in all the land of Mizraim there was bread. When all the land of Mizraim was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Pharaoh said unto all the Mizraim, go unto Joseph, what he saith to you, do. And the famine was over all the face of the Arats. And Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold unto Mizraim. And the famine waxed sore in the land of Mizraim. And all countries came to Mizraim to Joseph to buy corn, because the famine was sore in all lands. All these people were afflicted, and he called and carried all their burdens. He could have told these people, man, don't come around here for no food. I only got food for mine. I only got food for me. But instead, he carried the burden of all, fulfilling the Torah of Mashiach. Now, he said, I took the burden off of him, right? So let's look at off his shoulder. Y'all know from Ezekiel chapter 12 about the man talking about the prince carrying that on his shoulder, right? So when we come back and we already know that Mashiach carried the stake on his shoulder, then he gave him Simon the Cyrene to help him bear the burden. So when we come back and we look at Galatians chapter 6. Galatians chapter 6. Galatians chapter 6 and 1. Galatians chapter 6 and 1. And it says, brethren, if any man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such as one in the ruach of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Mashiach. Now, we'll get into that more in depthly. But again, you seeing Mashiach bear all of our burdens and all of our sins in his body. You see how Joseph bear the burdens of everybody in Mizraim. We seeing these examples of these men doing that, and we got to learn to do the exact same thing. That as he is, so are we in this present world. And we'll just stop right there. So hallelujah for Yahushua and the word, and we'll just pick it up and continue on, y'all willing, on tomorrow.